The Expendables 4 arrived after a 9-year gap from the Expendables 3. And that extended break created two big problems that the movie could not overcome. Following the box office downturn of The Expendables 3 and the backlash to its PG-13 rating, the Expendables franchise spent several years on pause with numerous attempts to get the franchise up and running again. Unfortunately, The Expendables 4 failed to bring the franchise back to its glory days. Although The Expendables 4 did make the wise decision to go back to the R rating of the first two movies, the movie still feels surprisingly distant from the Expendables movie franchise as a whole. While it would be tempting to attribute that entirely to the 9 years between The Expendables 3 and The Expendables 4, that only tells half the story. In truth, the 9-year wait for The Expendables 4 created two much larger issues in the movie's story and place in the series. The Expendables 4 introduces a completely new status quo for the franchise's mercenary team and their allies, with several Expendables mainstays no longer around, specifically Jet Li, Terry Crews, Bruce Willis, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. While there are various real-world reasons for the four not returning, The Expendables 4 makes no effort to explain or account for their respective absences from the movie. The same is true of the slew of new recruits brought aboard the team in The Expendables 3, leaving The Expendables 4's cast to jump right into action with a team comprised of a mix of franchise newcomers and veterans. This same issue is also seen on a more individual level with Lee Christmas and his new girlfriend Gina. The Expendables 4 makes absolutely no reference to Lee's girlfriend in the first two movies, Sandra, so presumably Lee's breakup with her, his new relationship with Gina, and Gina joining the Expendables all took place off-screen between The Expendables 3 and The Expendables 4. All of that is a radical change in events and characters for the Expendables franchise to undergo without explanation, and the result is that The Expendables 4 feels like it awkwardly comes after The Expendables 3.5 that never was. During the 9-year gap from The Expendables 3 to The Expendables 4, one idea that emerged was to continue the franchise with a spin-off centered on Lee Christmas, which even carried the tentative title of The Expendables, A Christmas Story. Some of the plans for that spin-off seem to have been retained for The Expendables 4, which makes Lee its central protagonist with Sylvester Stallone's Barney Ross in a supporting role. Ironically, Statham's performance as Lee in The Expendables 4 heavily suggests that A Christmas Story was the better option for the Expendables franchise's comeback. The strongest parts of The Expendables 4 are centered on Lee being booted from the team after they blame him for Barney Ross's supposed death while covertly following them on their revenge mission. Statham's fight scene with Iko Uwais' Suardo Rama is also the best action scene of the shaky cam-filled Expendables 4. In all, The Expendables 4 shows Lee to be well suited for a solo adventure, which could still be an action ensemble with action stars like Tony Jaa and Iko Uwais on board. Inadvertently, The Expendables 4 makes the case for The Expendables, A Christmas Story being a much better movie.